Welcome to the Savvy Woman Show. I'm Catherine Magaña, a certified financial planner with Savvy Woman Wealth Management, where we're dedicated to financial education for women. The Savvy Woman Show is dedicated to you to help you learn about different types of financial planning, life in general. We actually interview a lot of different female advocates, business owners, and we want to share with you our life stories, and hopefully you can learn something with us today to help you empower you. So today we have a special guest, Leeanne Abraham, who's here with us from the Premierhire. So welcome to the show, and perhaps you can share with us a little bit about your background and how you became a business owner.
Sure. I have been a business executive for most of my career since I graduated with my MBA many years ago, and progressed through the corporate world. But after I had the opportunity to spend almost 7 years overseas in West and North Africa with my husband and my young children, when we came back to North America, because we weren't quite sure exactly where we were going to locate, Carlsbad was where we decided to start our family, or continue our family, and start a business. And we decided we had enough assets and experience that we kind of figured out what we wanted to do.
That's a big transition, moving from Africa to the United States. And how was that transition for you?
It was much more difficult than I anticipated, because when you live in a third world country and then you come back here, you go from having nowhere to buy anything to having 3 targets within 20 minutes of you. Yeah. So it's a little bit of an adjustment. Okay. But of course, I been living here for a long time, so adjusted back quite quickly.
So tell us a little bit about your business. What is it, kind of some of the services and things that you do?
Sure. So Premierhire Executive Search and Staffing is, we provide actually a fairly wide range of services for our clients. Although we are a boutique agency, we have a breadth of experience and expertise. So we provide everything from helping them find customer service people, receptionists, accountants, payroll specialists, contract specialists, all the way up to executive and leadership levels, such as a CFO or a CMO. Then we also specialize in engineering and technical, particularly on mechanical engineering areas as well, and also IT. So we've got quite a, I'm lucky I've got an experienced team, and so we're able to do quite a few different things.
So perhaps you can take us back now that you're a business owner, and maybe you can share with us maybe 2 or 3 tips that if somebody's wanting to get into business that you'd like to maybe share with our listeners.
Sure. The most important thing I think a lot of people forget about is really make sure you are doing your homework and your research and figuring out what you want to do while you're getting paid by somebody else.
Yes.
Don't do that experimenting while you're waiting for a paycheck to to get your own paycheck going. So definitely, if you've got an area or a business you're curious to go into or interested in, see if you can pursue that within your career, within a place where you're already earning an income, because that takes this pressure and stress off you if you can gain your expertise in an environment where you're supported. Then once you've decided that you've got what it takes to head out on your own and do your own thing, make sure you've got a lot of savings. There's nothing worse. I talk to a lot of people who's like, oh yeah, I tried that, but I ran out of money.
Yeah, and just have to give it enough time. Right?
You need time. It takes time. I was told in my business it could be 3 to 5 years, and it was. I didn't believe it, and because of course I thought I'd beat the odds.
Everybody expects that first year I'm going to go in and everything's going to be great.
And you run the numbers. You do a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet tells you, no problem, I can do this. But things just don't happen quite as planned. Things cost more than you anticipate. The state taxes and payroll taxes all end up being much more than you realize. And it just takes longer. Everything just takes longer, and it takes time. So you need to take the pressure off yourself. Know that it's going to take time, and make sure you've got the savings, because there'd be nothing worse than doing a massive investment of time and effort and building a client base and just not be able to continue just because you run out of money. So make sure you've got lots behind you to help you get going. And the other thing is make sure you've got good partners. It's really hard to go on your own. You know, when things get tough, and they will, there's a roller coaster. And when you haven't got somebody there to commiserate with, or to pull you up, or you pull them up, if you don't have a good team and good partners that you can trust, that won't walk out on you, or won't abandon you, or won't give up on the dream or the plan, it just makes it a lot easier to go into work every day and is knowing you've got somebody there.
I would agree. I have partners as well over the years, and it's definitely makes a big difference in running a business. And the other thing that stands out for myself when we set up our firm was the technology. I didn't realize, I knew we needed technology, but I didn't realize the investment and all the different technology that's out there, and making sure that you have the right contact relationship management system, and just things that are really important, and getting really good tools to help service your clients. So those are the types of things I think end up costing maybe a little bit more, but it definitely helps manage and when you're running your business.
Yeah, and if you're not careful, especially if you are an individual in your business, you haven't got the partnerships, you can actually spend all your time just getting that set up. And then you don't have clients, and then you don't have income. So it's kind of a catch-22. You need to do both at the same time. And so if you have partners, and one of you can specialize or focus while the other one's out getting clients and building the business.
So maybe you tell us a little bit about, say somebody is thinking about leaving the workforce, maybe to have a family, and so any comments or any tips on somebody that's maybe thinking of leaving the workforce that you can share?
Yeah, definitely. I did that.
Okay.
So it was ironic because I was actually doing speaking engagements with women, mostly in the tech field, but women executives. And the one thing I was starting to speak on was, you know, when you leave the workforce for family, and how are you going to do that? And then ironically I ended up doing that fairly soon.
Did that.
I literally left the workforce, I left the country, I left the continent, I went to a third world country. So I did the extreme, but there's a couple of things that are really, really important that if you are going to leave to be out for a couple of years, is it really is important to maintain your network. And as hard as that can be, because it is another 10 minutes you don't have, especially if you're having babies, it really is valuable, and it makes all the difference in the world. So if you can figure out before you leave that you get a commitment from different groups that you're involved in. Maybe you're part of an association, maybe you're part of a user group, maybe you've got a group of people that you meet with at work, or through, you know, like competitive, you know, groups that you meet with regularly because you're in a similar business or you're networking, that you remind them, hey, I'm maybe out, but I'm not out, right? Please invite me. Please remember to include me in your email list. And then make an effort to go, as hard as it is to actually put clothes on and get out of the house and find a babysitter, and or maybe you can bring your baby with you. You've got to maintain those networks, because when you're ready to come back, if you haven't maintained them, it's really hard to get back.
I was going to say, how about those that want to come back to the workforce? I mean, is there, you know, would somebody go through a company like yours, or do you have any other suggestions of something to consider or think about?
It's fairly expensive to go through a placement agency. We're not a placement agency, meaning that we don't service the person looking for a job. Our client is the company looking for people. So yes, you definitely want to reach out to recruiters, let them know who you are and you exist, so that you never know, there might be a match. So that's a good strategy. Getting yourself ready, branding yourself, getting yourself ready to get out there and to look professional, and to just deal with that gap head on. Put it right in your LinkedIn profile, put it right on your resume. Left to raise a family. Don't try to pretend you were a consultant or that you were doing this family business that really didn't exist, because people figure that out, and then it puts your integrity into question. So just be quite honest about that you went to raise a family.
So are you seeing any current trends with kind of job placements and kind of executive searches? Is there anything that's kind of standing out or different that's changed over the last few years?
The market is really hot. So it is an employee's market, especially, well, not especially, like in all areas. We're really seeing it at the middle management level, entry level, all the way up to middle management. If you are in an area, a particular industry or a specialty, it probably is tight. So that can be advantageous if you have been out for a while, and using that example.
Might be a good time then.
It's a very good time to come back in, because employers are desperate and looking for good people. And if you can present yourself as that good person, even if your skills are a little bit older, or you know, they're going to have to bring you up to speed, they're willing to do that, because to get the quality of person.
And it's interesting, recently, over the last few months, what I've seen is some clients that have come to us who have the company's restructured, or they're downsizing, or and some of these more senior people that have been around with companies for 20 to 30 years are getting severance packages, and so
yes.
I'm starting to see that a little bit. But obviously they're not ready to retire. They still they still have the skills, but perhaps they need to look at a different direction. So it sounds like there's been a lot of different changes happening out there.
I think that's probably one of the hardest areas right now in our marketplace. You've got employers who are short-staffed and are desperately looking for people, but they're not necessarily in a position or have figured out how to take advantage of that more experienced older workforce that is still ready and able to work, but they can't pay them the salaries they're used to earning, and they're nervous about them not feeling valued or appreciated, or potentially losing them to a better paying position. So it's a little bit of an awkward place right now. There are hundreds, well, probably thousands of senior executives, very qualified, who would be keen to work for less money just to be out there again. But it's a difficult match.
So maybe it's a little bit of, kind of semi-retired, kind of maybe not working as many hours and just kind of starting out
so that's why the fractional organizations are getting quite popular. A lot of fractional CFOs, fractional CTOs, fractional COOs, that type of thing. So fractional work is definitely getting, we're seeing more and more of that. And so there's opportunities for people, but it takes networking. Yeah,
everything, relationships, and so do you, in your industry and what you do, you work with men and women, do you see any differences or anything that stands out to you in working with those different females and males, or do you feel like it's pretty similar, or is there anything that stands out to you that's...
I really feel the difference is dissolving from my perspective. I'm seeing that a lot. I'm very fortunate. I work with great companies with great leadership principles and tremendous respect for the individual. So I don't see a lot of that.
It's not based on gender, it's really just based on skill and if it's the right fit and all of that.
Yeah, and, every once in a while we come across somebody who says, I want to hire a female or a male because of these assumptions they have, and therefore this male or female will do better in that role. And we do our best to challenge that and or to find out what's really underneath it.
It just seems that recently in the last, what we're finding is that there's a lot more women that are getting into leadership roles or wanting leadership, and so just wasn't sure if you are seeing that at all, or just it's maybe evolving, over time. So that's
I think it's just evolving over time. I think I love seeing that there is more women in leadership, and so other women pulling up other women and recognizing them in the workforce. Definitely, I see more of that, and I think a big part of it is men in leadership recognizing that their female counterparts are just as qualified.
And I would agree with that. In the financial services industry, there's about 25% female advisors or planners out there, and that's a big change over the last 15, 20 years. But obviously we wanted to see 50-50, but it's going to take a long time to get there. Our firm, my partner Steve, he's a male, and he's, we're men and women for women, and it's important. I think that you are seeing that change, but I would agree, even for here, like I said, I've noticed in my industry the changes, and I think that just comes with educating and helping support other women in this field.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about working with your spouse. So how is that?
That's hard. That didn't work. So it's not something I recommend. It takes a lot of forethought, I think, to set up how are we going to work together. How are we going to separate family life from work life, especially when you have to have reporting relationships, when somebody has more power than the other person. I have seen couples manage that situation, but there has to be a lot of conversations around what are the roles that each person plays, who has the authority in different areas, how you provide feedback to each other so that it doesn't go home with you, and just really having a lot of discipline in the challenging the stories and assumptions that go on in our head and making sure that those are talked through on a regular basis. I have done a lot of coaching for people who are work together as husband and wife. Ironically, I didn't necessarily succeed in my own coaching. But so my husband and I, although he supports me in this business, he's my CEO and my primary investor. He supports me in it and as an advisor, but he lets me do my thing, right? Because we do not agree on a lot of the things, so he just doesn't want to know.
And that's, it seems you make it work, and you obviously have different skill sets, and that's part of it too. So as we're talking about spouses, maybe we can talk a little bit about family. I mean, obviously having a business and being a spouse and having kids, I mean, how do you manage all that, and what is kind of some feedback for us?
I haven't cracked the code, so I'm not going to pretend to say that I've figured it out. But I guess if I've been doing this I had my children late in life, so I've now been doing this. My eldest is 14, or turning 15 in 3 weeks. So I've been doing this for 15 years. So for somebody who's just starting on this, I think I can provide advice. I would say that you definitely need to get organized, very organized. Both in your work life as well as your home life. You need to declutter your world. You need to learn to say no. You need to declutter your family obligations and make sure everybody knows this is what I can do and what I can't do. Because if you were a stay-at-home mom for maybe you had the benefit of 4, 5, 6 years, everybody probably took advantage of that. And now things are shifting. As you're growing your family, their time, as you well know, gets busier, and your time gets busier. The other thing I took advantage of, and it was worth it, is I took advantage of a nanny who could drive.
That was helpful, probably.
That was amazing, right? And so that allowed my children to still participate in after-school sports and activities, but it didn't put the strain on either my husband or I. And that was really important to do that for a period of time. And we also were able to figure out after-school care that included activities. So again, it was just one drop and one pick. So that whole drop pick thing.
Honestly, that's the hardest part, is getting them home from school and then getting to activities. And my mom helps us too, so we have a support system. But the reality is there are still outside activities and other coordinating and schedules.
And we did make use of Uber until we were blacklisted because my children were underage, and I didn't realize you weren't allowed to do that. But there are services now, I don't know how active they are in this area, who actually specialize in children, moving children. So I think it's going to get easier for us managing all those activities. But you definitely want to, I did very well. I was very fortunate to have a strong network of moms, and we backed each other up. So we were all working, we all knew our schedules, and if I couldn't pick up because I got stuck downtown at a meeting or something, I had 4 other moms I could text, and they would pick up my daughter. So that was invaluable, and has been invaluable.
Good. Nice. So I want to talk a little bit about lifestyle planning. When we look at lifestyle planning, we factor in income and any age. When we look at financial planning, it incorporates kind of financial goals. What are you planning for retirement, education? Do you have an emergency fund? So I'm just curious to know if when somebody's maybe making a career change or maybe looking to advance to a different position, do you think some of that comes into play, or thinking about maybe if I can make a little more money, can I save a little bit more, or what are the benefits that they're providing with the company? Because I do, as I'm doing some of these numbers and planning, sometimes I hear, I want to, this is the next phase, and this is what I want to do with my career. So just wasn't sure if you see any of that, or if you hear about the financial side at all, or if it's mostly just kind of the lifestyle, or maybe they're looking for something new in their or different kind of company.
So that's a really interesting perspective, because my father is a financial planner. Okay, so I come from really being knowledgeable on that side. I'm not necessarily saying I'm excellent at it, but I understand it. So on one side, I'm always surprised at particularly more the junior level, not necessarily the higher level executives, but more junior level, how uneducated they are on the total compensation package. So quite often I'll have people say, well, I have to earn $50,000. I'm like, great. Now, why? And when the company offers you $50,000, it's not just about the $50,000. It's about what are the benefits that they're providing, what is the vacation and your ability to manage that, you know, relative to what your spouse is doing and your kids' school holidays. So the expense of covering their vacation when you're still working. You know, what else are they providing? Are they providing a 401k? Are they doing kind of an FSA or an HSA? So they're not asking those questions. So I make quite an effort with my clients to make sure that we're clear on the total package.
Which
and
is
we're
important.
Presenting,
Right.
Yeah, it's very important. And I'm putting a dollar value. I'm always having to transfer that into a dollar value so that my candidates understand what the total package is, so they can kind of compare their decisions. Most people are not leaving work to earn more money. Most people are leaving work to be in a better environment. I mean, but if they do move, they want to make more money.
Yeah,
right?
That's not the reason. It's just happy. There might be an extra benefit for that.
So if I'm going to move, if I'm not happy where I am, and I'm going to make a move, I want to at least make more money, and or get more benefits. So,
and it's lifestyle, maybe, or maybe they want to travel, or maybe there's something more. I think that could be involved.
Yeah, a lot of people, if they're in a situation where they're working tremendously long hours, but they're not getting personal motivation out of it, or they're not getting a lot of money out of it, that's a good reason to find something that fits better with their lifestyle.
Nice. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. I think that, like you said, it is part of the total package, and it does tie into their retirement or their planning and everything else that we look at. So. So at Savvy Women Wealth Management, we do encourage our clients to learn about asset management, liability management, protective strategies, and estate planning. We think it's important to be educated in all different areas. We also provide a lot of different education platforms. We do live workshops, webinars. We also have what's called a Savvy Minute. So every week we put out a weekly tip, all different financial related topics. So once again, we're big advocates for educating on all different areas of your life. Leeanne, I want to thank you for joining us today and for sharing a lot of different tips with us, and we appreciate you being on the show. Perhaps you can share with our viewers how to reach you.
Sure. You're welcome to reach me at my email, which is Leeanne@Premierhire.com. Also our website, which is www.premierhire.com, and the Premier has an E at the end of it, like a premier opening, and be happy to take any further questions you have, or if we can help you find your next talented person.
Great, thank you. So every show we want to leave you with an inspirational quote. Today's quote is, "Good leaders organize and align people around what the team needs to do. Great leaders motivate and inspire people with why they're doing it. That's purpose. And that's the key to achieving something truly transformational." Marilyn Houston, CEO of Lockheed Martin. We've come to the end of our show, and we want to thank you for joining us. And remember, knowledge is power. For successful investing, never stop learning, and savvy up.